Hiya! Have you ever been curious by the art of tarot reading but just not sure where to start? Well, fear not, I was in a similar position, and yet I have come to really value what tarot can offer. Stick around and I'll let you know how tarot came into my life and things that you can do to start engaging with tarot card reading straight away. Hello there, I'm Sally. I am an artist, but I have been struggling with kind of fear of putting my work out there, procrastination, imposter syndrome, creative block, all of those nasty things that hold us back as artists. And I have made it my mission to use this YouTube channel to explore why that is and things that we can do as artists to try and get ourselves out of that creative block. Now, as I mentioned in my last video, I explained how tarot had become quite an important tool for me in navigating what I really want by using visual clues to help dig a little bit deeper into my personal subconscious and to try and get myself out of the creative block. And I have proposed that we are going to go on a journey together using the themes and archetypes and messages that tarot cards can provide us, specifically with creative block and going on our own personal creative journeys, whatever that is for you. Before delving into that, I thought it might be quite a nice idea to do a little video on how tarot actually came into my life. And if you'd said to me a few years ago that I'd been to tarot card reading, I probably would have been surprised, although actually I'm into quite a lot of alternative things, so maybe not, but it wasn't something that was particularly on my radar. And actually it was through my artwork that tarot almost snuck its way into my life. And you know, the universe works in strange ways, and perhaps my artwork was a way of channeling a connection with tarot and for me to discover it, if you like. So the reason tarot came into my life was simply because I created a group of characters, a collection called the Tremendous Tuxedo Circus, which I will put a picture up for you to see the characters. And it's basically combining my love of two things. So in my late 20s, going into my 30s, my partner and I got into the art of different circus skill disciplines. So my thing was hoop dancing, I did a bit of poi spinning, I still do it from time to time, but not so much as I did a few years ago. I got really obsessed by it. But for various reasons it's kind of fizzled out, and I've actually got more into my artwork, and as I explained in the last video, I do get a bit distracted by stuff, and circus skills was definitely one of those things, although I'm really glad that I learned how to do it. It's really interesting and fun hobby, and met a lot of people and made a lot of friends through that activity. But the love of circus, particularly like the aesthetics and the characters, vintage circus in particular, has always stayed with me, and it's always been my aim to create art related on circus. The second part is my poor cat Jack. He became the face of the Tremendous Tuxedo Circus, so he is a black and white cat, and all of the characters are inspired by the markings on his face. And yes, so he's been turned into a clown, which is Casper, Reginald, the ringmaster, the painted lady who's called Pandora, Sydney the strong man, and then the bearded lady called Madam Whiskers, and finally Misty. So this is the colouring page that I created. These actually started out as sketches, then they became dolls. So before I got really back into my drawing, I went through a bit of a doll making phase. So Misty had her crystal ball, but she told me that she wanted some tarot cards as well. And at this point I had no idea what tarot cards were particularly, and so I did a bit of dabbling, and actually my first attempt was just doing plain just doing standard playing cards. So we've got hearts and spades, but I did take a bit of creative license and added the paw card, obviously a cat, it's gotta happen. And these are actually inspired by the really famous deck called the Rider-Waite-Smith. When I copied, well, I say copy, I didn't necessarily copy them, I think the word is appropriated them. So they are heavily, if you research these, I have taken the ideas directly from those cards, but you'll see that I've swapped them out for black and white tuxedo cats. These colouring page designs were created for instant downloads on my Etsy shop. You can still get these if you're interested. I'll put a link down below. And so I just created this one because it was just, we had Misty with her crystal ball, and then I just wanted to acknowledge tarot cards. And then I had a couple of people who had downloaded them and they said, oh, really love this, but what a shame you haven't got the whole deck. Little did I know that in a tarot deck you have 78 cards, and that is split into two sections, the major and the minor arcana. And I thought, well, maybe I should look into it. So I did, which resulted in doing just the major arcana, which are the characters, the archetypes and the life events. And as we go through our journaling process, I will introduce each of these characters, but just to give you an idea, as I said, very heavily influenced excuse me, very heavily influenced by the Rider-Waite-Smith design. Obviously there are a lot more contemporary designs out there, but this deck is very influential. But this was my attempt at engaging with these, and so I went through them. And as I said, these are still available to download. I'm actually in the process of putting all of these colouring pages into a printable book, which I think I'm going to do on Amazon KDP, but there'll be future videos on that. That's in the pipeline. Anyway, back to the tarot. So once I'd created the initial designs and popped them on my popped them on Etsy to be downloaded, I obviously wanted to promote them, so I thought I would have a go at colouring them in myself. So these have all been hand coloured in. These are just the first three, and this was when I thought actually there might be something in this, and became a little bit fascinated because I researched all of the meanings of these and realised that as I said, they tap into sort of universal archetypes. So if anybody's who's interested in Jung out there, I don't know a great deal about his philosophies in detail, but it sort of would resonate with somebody who's interested in that. So after diligently colouring these in and popping them onto my Instagram with the meanings that I'd researched, I did get a bit interested, and so I decided to buy my first deck. Obviously I went with the cat deck, which is the Tarot of Pagan Cats, which has been a delight to use. If you would like me to do a video of the different decks, I've got about 5 or 6 tarot decks and a few more oracle decks. I'm more than happy to do a walkthrough of what I've got, why I chose them, how I find the decks, and particularly if this has caught your imagination and you're sort of thinking, oh yeah, tarot, that sounds quite interesting. I think it's helpful to see what other people have chosen, and it might help you to decide whether this is something that you want to get into or not. There is a superstition out there that apparently it's bad luck to buy your own first tarot deck, but there are a lot of people that don't believe that. I bought this one myself, so you know, if you're superstitious, you might want to get someone to buy you one, but you know, that's down to you, isn't it? And so yeah, I got a bit obsessed, and several tarot and oracle decks later, I thought, you know what, I'm now in a position to come up with a more original set of designs. And I was actually inspired by Erin Morgenstein, so the lady who wrote the Night Circus. Now interestingly, I read the Night Circus well after it had been out. I think it had been out for about 10 years, and I actually designed my Tremendous Tuxedo Circus before I read that book, and I wasn't even really aware of it. But interestingly, there are some overlaps with that, the kind of black and white theme. But she has recently, well, within the last year, brought out a deck which wasn't, I don't think, intended to be a commercial deck. But while she was writing that book, there is a tarot card reader in the book, and she was sort of interested in it as well. And she painted these to help her understand the meanings of the cards a bit better and to connect with them. And I thought, actually, that's a really good idea. I'm in a, not unique, but, you know, being creative and being into art, I would probably benefit by if this is the path that I want to take, and I do feel strongly that it is, that I would actually benefit by maybe revisiting them and having a go at doing my own designs. So when we start our exploration into the messages that we can receive from the tarot and how they might help us with our creative block, I will probably be using a combination of my original Rider-Waite-Smith designs that I started with, but also use my new designs, because that will help me to try and embed my knowledge, and also it'll help me to put my own unique spin on how I understand them. And I think that's what makes different decks. As you get into tarot and you start collecting decks, everyone has their own unique way of interpreting the overall meaning. Oracle cards are a little bit different, and I will probably do a separate video on the difference between tarot and oracle, but all you need to know at this point is that tarot has a set definition and oracle is a little bit more open to the person who's created the deck in terms of meanings and what you can gain from it. So yeah, I will be using, I've started to take some of the characters from the Tremendous Tuxedo Circus and assign them to the different archetype, or assign them to the characters in the deck of the tarot. So one of my characters, Casper the Clown, is obviously going to be the Fool. My Ringmaster, he's going to double up as the Magician. We've got the High Priestess, who is going to be Misty the Fortune Teller, because that's all linked to intuition, and so on and so forth. These are initial designs, so these are going to evolve, and I'll be updating people as they evolve. But yeah, so in a nutshell, art brought me to tarot, and tarot is now helping me navigate, shall I say, my creative process, and keeping me on track and helping me to understand when things get a little bit overwhelming. And and almost as a friendly guide to keep me on track and to remind me what it is that I actually want. And interestingly enough, when I've done readings about my creative dreams, the YouTube channel came up quite a lot, and it's difficult for me to explain how that is, but a lot of tarot is built on intuition. So when you look at the cards, you'll give a question, and the kind of the feeling and the energy that I've got from that is about community and connecting with people. And as I mentioned, as an introvert, face to face, I find that quite daunting sometimes, and so you know, being behind a video is I personally find that easier. So so I established from that it is the YouTube channel that will hopefully help me connect to that community that the cards keep telling me about. So so yeah, looking forward to going on this journey with you. As I said, if this is something that sounds like it resonates with you, then please subscribe and come on the journey, come on my creative journey, but also explore your creative journey, and hopefully we can unlock together some of the things that hold us back, and grow in confidence. You know, there's lots of different ways out there for you to for self-development, and I don't know, some of them I've sort of dabbled with and they just haven't resonated with me, but tarot is on a very personal level, and you know, you're in charge of the messages that you get from it, because it is coming from your subconscious basically, and I think there's a lot of power in that. So yeah, subscribe if that sounds interesting, like if it resonates with you as well, and hopefully I'll see you next time for the next video, where we are going to take a little bit of a deep dive into the major arcana of the tarot deck, specifically for our creative journeys and creative block. Until next time, happy art making. Bye bye.